So, Bryan Freedman, who is Justin Baldoni's attorney, has finally given his first interview or statements after the judge went ahead and made all his orders yesterday. We finally get to see what he's thinking about it all and what are the next steps for Justin Baldoni. We're not going to watch the entire interview. Some of it was pretty repetitive from what we've been keeping up with. So I chose multiple clips. We're going to go ahead and listen, see if we can learn something new. Let me know if you need the audio turned up once it starts or down if it's too loud.
Can you just speak to what you think her strategy was here? I mean, was it, I'll file this civil rights division complaint, and then my allegations will be protected, undermining any attempt to sue me for potentially defamatory statements, and then I will leak it to the New York Times so it will get out there, and then everyone will know that I'm the victim here, as opposed to the narrative that existed prior to her filing that complaint, which was, she seems like a real bitch, and she is tone deaf on domestic violence, and she seems to have blown up her movie for no apparent reason. Those were the buzz. That was part of the buzz going around about her. She bullies reporters. That was also part of it. So is that your theory of the case, Bryan, that she launched this whole thing in her own effort at PR spin and control?
I believe what happened in the case, and it's pretty clear, right, is that, press came out, which was negative toward her. There was press that came out that was negative toward Justin. But these, whether it's internet sleuths who are amazing, or whether it's, amazing reporters went back in time and pulled videos and pulled, information.
If you haven't seen any of the interview videos that they're talking about, I linked one in the description that we went over. It is definitely the one worth watching because that is when all the backlash started for Blake Lively.
Generally videos don't lie, right, about how you've behaved in the past. And they pulled that information, they put that information out, whether it was the Christy Flaw, video, or whether it was other videos, whether it was the videos where she said, here's what I do. I just, misrepresent what I'm trying to get a role, and then I take over the film, and, or any of that stuff. I think that reporters and other people in the media played that for people, and people had a reaction to it. And there was an organic response as a result of that. I think that was too much for her. It was too much for her to believe that somebody could actually not like her based on her own belief, her own conduct. I think that was something that she couldn't handle. Whether that's whether that's an interesting narcissism quality or otherwise, I don't know. Not a doctor, but I can tell you this: the result of it was her scurrying around trying to blame someone else for why her own behavior seemed to be the cause of people not liking her. And that spiraled into something that, was completely out of control. I mean, whenever do you see someone, make a red carpet walk and go out in the press and bring all of their friends into this and make this situation bigger than what it is? Is this good for her? Is this good for her career? Is this good for her children? Is this good for her family?
And Justin Baldoni, who was the director, had to be shut into the basement to watch the first screening of it while she got everybody for the press upstairs. Pretty crazy.
You have to ask yourself at some point, everybody has a part in everything, right? Is she capable of taking responsibility for her part in this and owning that? We haven't seen that yet. And that's why, that many people out there are finding evidence about how she's behaved, how she's treated reporters, how she's treated people, how she's treated individuals, how she's treated, waiting staff and others, and saying, it's not okay. We don't like you.
Mm-hmm. She's a bully. That's my own conclusion. She's an obvious bully who can't take any rounds of negative press, which is so absurd. You and I both know that public figures, many of whom you've defended, including yours truly, have to take tons of negative press. And it's just part of being a public figure. It's not pleasant, but to try to ruin a man's life over one mild round that she had to suffer when this movie came out is just insane. That's, to me, clearly what she's doing. Can I ask you about what remains? Because my own take was, so the civil extortion claim is gone, the defamation claim is gone, the false light invasion of privacy claim, counterclaims, I should say, by Justin against her and the related parties are gone. But what's left? Because I heard you say it's 4 claims. I thought it was just the tortious interference and the breach of the covenant of good faith and fair dealing, insofar as he's alleging that Ryan Reynolds messed with his relationship with Ari Emanuel over at WME. Like if that happened and they interfered with Justin's agency relationship, you still have a claim. Where am I wrong? How is it bigger?
Well, it's bigger because there's an intentional interference with contract, which is against Blake and Ryan, that the judge gave us a roadmap to replead. There's intentional interference with prospective economic advantage, and goes beyond just a contract. It goes to the heart of, are you going to be able to work again? There's negligent interference with prospective economic advantage against Blake and Ryan, and there's something called breach of the implied covenant of good faith and fair dealing against Blake only. And those claims, are being repled. The judge gave us a roadmap on how to replete those. And what the judge would like to see. We are doing that now and working through that. And those are significant claims. But nothing is as significant as taking her deposition, going through that process, getting the witness testimony and the witnesses deposed, and going into the courtroom and showing the truth to show that there was no sexual harassment. Nothing is more important than that.
And you think that deposition could take place as early as when?
It's been noticed in June. We'll see, when she actually decides to appear. But I assume that it will take place before August 15th because that's the close of discovery of that type.
Are you going to get Ryan as well, Ryan Reynolds?
We'll see. I mean, obviously he's a defendant in the case, so of course we're going to notice his deposition. And, and the judge has clearly indicated that the judge would like to limit discovery and limit the collateral issues in the case. We think there's really important issues that there needs to be discovery on, and those will be some of the battles along the way that we will have. But there's no substitute for the truth. And from the beginning, this has been about facts, right? Put them out there. Where is the evidence? Where are the receipts? Put them out there so that people can see the truth. This is about someone who's had their career destroyed and trying to build that back.
How did Justin take the news, Bryan? It's having practiced law. I know it's never great when you get a decision like this one. How's he feeling?
I think that injustice is a word I think I can best describe it. A lack of understanding. If she said these things about me that were untrue, how come I don't have a legal redress in terms of defamation? If this, it's clear, the evidence is clear that they, secreted to get the information on this Van Zam subpoena and created, this whole Doe lawsuit and got that information so that no one could see it, and then use that information so that they could put together this hit piece in the New York Times. And that was devastating for Justin. It was, if anybody remembers what December 21st was like for him, there was 100% of the people saying he's a horrible person, and 0%, well, except for me, who actually saw him on a day-to-day basis, and his family, who really were on his side until we put out the facts, until we put out the receipts, until we put out the documents, because this has always been about facts and truth. And it's, it's frustrating for him, who knows exactly what he did and didn't do. Did he acquiesce too much to her demands? Absolutely, because he was afraid. But that's very different than whether he sexually harassed her.
Is his career in ruins? Are people not offering him jobs? Is he not able to get funding for an additional picture?
He's lost jobs. It has affected his career at the moment. It's obviously affected, him emotionally and his self-esteem and he's putting up the best face he can for his family and whatnot. But all he wants is truly a chance and a courtroom and a jury to be able to tell his story to. He's not going around on red carpets. He's not going around, with interviews. He's not going around on some victory tour, even when she dropped her emotional distress claims, and we're in the process of dropping her emotional distress claims. And they have an interesting ability to go on victory tours, whether they win or lose. So it doesn't even matter. I could see her losing the case and going on a victory tour. But that's what we're dealing with, right? When people show you who they are, believe them.
So give us your overall take on this federal district court judge dismissing large portions of your counterclaims against Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds, the New York Times, and this PR agent who represented the couple.
Sure. First of all, great to see you. The last time I was with you actually was the last kind of disaster in LA, which were the LA fires. I think it was March 7th, and we were on together, so yet another crisis in LA, and I'm here. So I don't think there's any coincidence. But my take on what the judge did was the judge simplified things. While we're not pleased that he got rid of the defamation causes of action, the truth was the case was never really about defamation. And while it's while it's our response and while it's a portion of our claims, from the very start, this case was about somebody being wrongfully accused, and that's Justin. And
So yeah, that basically just goes over what they're planning on doing, how they're looking at everything. The deposition is going to be very interesting, and I hope that we get to actually see at some point the videos of that. It reminds me of Johnny Depp's whole thing with Amber Heard. Her deposition videos were wild. Not good. A lot of people are comparing the two girls, saying that they act similar. I think so. I think it could be a crazy deposition for her. But we'll just see how it goes. I think Justin is doing a good job of just keeping low, not going out on victory tours as they keep talking about, staying out of the headlines. And I think at this point, that's what he needs to be doing. He needs to just move forward with this and try to clear his name. And at some point, the truth will come out. And hopefully, if there were damages, it can be fixed and corrected. But yeah, we'll have to keep following along. Hope that we can see the deposition. Hope that it goes to trial. If it's in New York, we won't get to watch it because they don't do live trials like that. But we'll get to read about it and hear about it. And it will be very interesting nonetheless. So, all right. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back on here a little bit later tonight. We're going to be going over some of the trials that are coming up, the sentencings that are coming up, and about one of my new videos that I've been working on. I'm not going to say who it is yet, but I'm doing another unmasked video, and I've been doing interviews for it, and we'll talk about that later today. All right. Thank you for watching.